As a young Air Force pilot, I was selected to fly the A-10 Warthog. The A-10 is a single-seat attack aircraft, and its primary role is to provide lethal support to our troops on the ground. If our soldiers find themselves under attack and they need help, who do they call in? The A-10s. It carries a multitude of weapons, bombs, missiles, rockets. In fact, the entire aircraft is built around a 20-foot Gatling gun that holds 1,150 30-millimeter rounds. And the cockpit sits in a titanium tub to protect the pilot from enemy fire. Courage? Pretty much a requirement for the job. But do you know what else it takes? The proper perspective. In order to be successful at whatever it is we're doing, and I'm including all of you now, we need to continually fight our tendency to be circumstance focused and shift our perspective back to the big picture. Whatever that mission, to keep that mission running, whatever that is, we need to shift it back and have a mission-focused mindset. Whatever your mission might be, whether it's flying an A-10 in combat, running a business, or even getting your kids up and off to school on time. 17 years ago, I am almost done with fighter jet training in the A-10 Warthog when I am handed a piece of paper, shut in a room with 8 guys, and told, stay in there until you figure this out. Now, I don't need to be quite so dramatic. Those 8 guys, they were just my classmates. But that piece of paper, it mattered. On it, it listed 9 A-10 assignments from around the globe. And we, as A-10 students, had to decide amongst ourselves who was going to get to go to which location and live there when we were done with training. So what do? Oh, it's simple. You just play a game of chance and you roll some dice. Isn't that what you all would do? Where you're going to live next? No, probably not. But that is literally what we did. And I roll Korea. A few months later, I am in Korea, finally scheduled to fly. It has been over 3 months at this point since I've flown the A-10, and naturally, I'm a little bit anxious. But I am so excited to finally be getting back up in the air. Now, one interesting fact about the A-10 is that it is a single-seat aircraft, and there are no 2-seat training models, which means the first time you fly it, every time you fly it, you're solo. The flight brief goes long, standard, but that doesn't mean I'm given any extra time to meet the scheduled takeoff time. So now I need to rush, and I hate rushing because rushing can lead to broken habit patterns, which can lead to switch errors, which in my world can be deadly. Takeoff and departure are smooth and uneventful. But soon, I'm scanning my gauges and I notice that my oil pressure is jumping around. Not normal. So I hop on the radio and I tell my flight lead that my oil pressure is acting strange and that the gauge is all over the place. He simply replies, copy that, keep an eye on it. Okay. Well, I did keep an eye on it. Such a close eye, in fact, that even before I got the light on my caution panel telling me that I did in fact have a serious problem with my oil system, I was back on the radio telling my flight lead that I need to shut this engine down. I can hear the tension in his voice. But I'm calm and confident. There's a procedure for this emergency. I know it, and I've practiced it in training. I am not letting myself become circumstance focused. And I shift my perspective back to a mission-focused mindset. How? Well, in this particular case, by changing the mission. My mission is no longer to go out and practice maneuvers in the jet. It is simply one thing: to land this plane safely. As pilots, we know that things don't always go as planned. Maintaining a mission-focused mindset requires that we plan and train for the unexpected, and that we're psychologically agile, able to shift our focus when circumstances dictate. I open up my checklist and step by step, I apply the procedures, talking my flight lead through everything I'm doing as I do it. I'm taking the left throttle and I'm pulling it back to idle. I'm taking the left engine and I'm shutting it down. As a former flight instructor in a different aircraft, I can imagine how helpless he must feel. With a brand new wingman on his wing who hadn't flown in months, handling one of the more threatening emergencies you can have in the jet, and not being able to do anything about it but pretty much watch. Well, now I'm flying on just one engine and I need to find a place to land. Kunsan Air Base is closer than my home base of Osan, so we head that direction. I need to be smooth on the controls and watch the airspeed like a hawk. It is vital that I fly smooth enough and fast enough on just this one engine to keep this jet in the air. And during landing phase, when thrust on the engine changes, I need to control the yaw. Yawing is essentially one wing flying more forward than the other. Hence, the aircraft gets slightly canted. If proper rudder pedals are not used to control this yaw, the aircraft can depart controlled flight and spin right into the ground. I maneuver the aircraft carefully and skillfully, and I land safely on the runway at Kunsan Air Base. Our maintenance team drives down from Osan, and they discover that I had a faulty oil valve. Whew. No switch error, no pilot error, just bad valve leaking out all my oil. Late the following afternoon, they get the jet fixed. I hop in it and fly it back to Osan, and am greeted by the bros in the squadron with handshakes and even hugs. Comments like, "Awesome job." The last pilot to get into that situation crashed the jet. Shutting down an engine in flight, especially when you only have two, is considered a major emergency. But yet, everything in that story seemed pretty smooth and uneventful, didn't it? How can something that is considered a major emergency be seen as smooth and uneventful? The answer? A mission-focused mindset. More often than not, we become circumstance-focused, and which significantly decreases our overall effectiveness or makes us completely ineffective and essentially frozen. Now let's think about this situation again. I want you all to rewind with me for a second. There I am, I take off, same thing happens. Oil pressure looks kind of iffy, keep an eye on it. And then it becomes apparent that there's a big problem. I need to shut the engine down. I'm like, well, I kind of know what to do, but I'm not really sure. This is going to be difficult, more difficult than I really wanted it to be. So I think that I'm just going to, I'm going to grab the ejection handle, I'm going to pull it, and I'm going to bail out. Does that make a lot of sense? I'm hoping most of you are thinking, no, that makes no sense. Just, you got to see it through. But yet that is what we do so often in life. We just grab that ejection handle and we bail out. I'm guessing a lot of you aren't because you're here. But let's think about the unintended consequences that happens. We think it's easier to do that. We'll just bail out and do something else. To put it in the scenario of the aircraft. A fighter jet will pull up to 9 Gs. Now, 9 Gs is extremely painful. It's really uncomfortable. When you eject, you're subject to an instantaneous 14 to 15 Gs. If you are not in the right position, you could break your neck. The parachute that you float down in, packed by a human being. They may have made a mistake and that chute doesn't open. Or it does open and you're floating down and the enemy's shooting at you, about to collect you. Or we're in training and you're here in Arizona and you land in a field of prickly pear cactus. All these things, unintended consequences when we thought it was just gonna be easier. So if you find yourself in a situation that's challenging or unexpected, I simply want you to grab one of these. You know what this is? It is a Pez dispenser. Now, you don't have to get the Wonder Woman one. There's hundreds of them out there, I've learned. But what on earth does a Pez dispenser have to do with a mission-focused mindset? Well, unfortunately, it's not the candy. In the military, and even more so in flying, we have a ton of acronyms. ACC, Air Combat Command, FAPE, First Assignment Instructor Pilot, TOLD, Takeoff and Landing Data, API, Armor Piercing Incendiary, GPU, Guided Bomb Unit. I think you get the idea. I have not been in the military for over 3 years, but I remember all that stuff and way more. Why? Because of the acronyms. So I am going to give you an acronym today to help you reframe your mindset and get yourself on a mission-focused mindset. Yes, you got it, PEZ. That's your acronym. P, prepare. Now, I'm not talking just prepare in general. We all know we need to prepare for what we're doing, but you also need to prepare for the unexpected or the most likely what if scenarios. So you're not worrying about that and you're ready when these things happen. Second, the enemies within. Much of our struggles are rooted within ourselves. You can't fight an enemy that you don't acknowledge, but they're still battling you. So we need to be ready and prepared and identify those enemies within ourselves because we're the only ones who give them power and we're the only ones that can take it away. And last, get in the zone. Focus forward. Now, what I want you to understand about this presentation is that we're assuming that you've already been through a solid goal setting process. This is not some willy-nilly thing you just picked up, said, I'll try it. This is something that you want. You've gone through that, you've decided, okay? So that being said, let's start with preparation. Preparation is key. Do you think that I got in the jet that day expecting to shut down an engine? No, I did not expect that, but I had prepared for it. In military flying, we brief the planned mission thoroughly, but we also always cover contingencies or the most likely what if scenario. A few what ifs at the end of our briefing. What if there's weather? What if the enemy troops are not where we think they're going to be? There's lots of what ifs. But you don't need to be in an intense, physically high stakes profession in order to prepare. Preparation applies to all aspects of life. Let's think about it. Is it possible that you could get in a fender bender sometime later today or this week? I mean, so yeah, if you drive, yeah, you could. Now, have you ever actually thought through step by step what you would do from the moment that accident happens? Now, I'm not just talking generally. I'm talking like, okay, I just got hit. What's first? What's next? How? Because if you haven't done that, that situation is going to be much more chaotic than it already is. Let's simplify things. Is it possible that you could lose your internet in the middle of a huge Zoom meeting that you're leading? Yeah, it's possible. Do you have a backup plan? If not, you are inviting stress, and stress shifts our focus. Now, looking at these two scenarios, the second one is more of a pre-event stressor. So in this case, you're not prepared, like with the internet scenario. You know it could happen, but you're not prepared. So now you're wondering, what if that happens? What if that happens? What if that happens? What are you supposed to be thinking about right now? Not that. So it's distracting you. So it's valuable for you to prepare. So you can go, well, if that happens, I'm going to do this. I can go back to what I'm thinking. The first scenario was a post-event stressor, meaning that it was something you didn't think would actually happen, so you didn't prepare for it, and now you're trying to manage this chaos. So when we fail to prepare for the most likely what if scenarios, you can't what if everything, but pick a couple things that this could happen. When we fail to do that, we become circumstance focused or fixated, which can stall or completely stop progress. We get frozen. Do you think that I was grateful that the military required me to train for the unexpected? You know the truth? I didn't appreciate it during the training. It was pretty painful and it felt like a waste of time. But you know what? It's not. I was so grateful for the wisdom of the Air Force making me train for the unexpected. So grateful. Never underestimate the power of preparation when it comes to a mission-focused mindset. Okay, now that we've covered preparation and have seen that preparation is foundational, it's crucial, let's move on to the next aspect. In order to maintain a mission-focused mindset, we must be emotionally wise, being aware of our own self-sabotaging thoughts and processing through our emotions in a productive way, not just pushing them aside and ignoring them. When you were a kid, or maybe you have a kid that has the idea in their mind that if they close their eyes, the bad guy's not there. We all know that, right? Or the kid in the movie who's like, it's not there, it's not there. This doesn't work that way. We all know that. We can't pretend that there's not enemies inside ourselves that we're battling. When I was 11 years into my aviation career, I had one of those moments that was so shocking to me that I remember exactly where I was and exactly what I was thinking. I am now flying the MQ-1 Predator, which is a remotely piloted aircraft, or RPA, often referred to by my least favorite term, drone. I had been injured flying one of the other jets, and I had cervical spine reconstruction. So now I'm sitting in a trailer on the ground flying a plane that's overseas. I am 5 months pregnant with baby number 2, driving home from work when my cell phone rings. I look down and see that it's my squadron commander. So I decide, I think I better pull over and take this call. He doesn't usually call me. He wants to know if I would be interested in attending US Air Force Weapons School in 7 months. I look down at my soccer ball shaped belly and I almost instantly say, F no. Now, for someone who rarely swears, that alone speaks volumes. But that is not the point. The point is, I am instantly circumstance focused. I am doing absolutely no problem solving here, which is required to maintain a mission-focused mindset. To give you some perspective, US Air Force Weapons School is known as one of the most elite training programs in the military, where some of the most gifted warriors of the sky are hand-selected for this PhD level program, where they learn the art of the most integrated combat. You could think of it as the US Air Force's version of Top Gun. Have you ever been asked to apply for a job that you didn't think you had the credentials for? Or maybe lead an initiative you didn't think you had the experience for? That is exactly how I am feeling in this moment. I drive home in utter disbelief. Me? Weapon school? I hardly think I'm weapon school material. Wait. I know what somebody out there is probably thinking. You're thinking that this story doesn't make a lot of sense. A fighter pilot who lacks confidence? Who has heard of such a thing? Have you ever heard the joke? How do you know if a fighter pilot is in the room? Oh, don't worry. They'll tell you. Well, not every fighter pilot lives up to this stereotype. And even if they do, they likely still suffer from imposter syndrome from time to time. Imposter syndrome is extremely common, even amongst very successful people. There's just not a lot of talk about it because everybody, I think, thinks that they're the only one, or maybe it's abnormal. According to Dr. Valerie Young, an expert on imposter syndrome, you might suffer from it if you attribute your success to luck, good timing, or the ability to deceive others. Now remember, it has the word syndrome, but it's not a disease. There's nothing wrong. It's just a way to describe the mental thought process that most of us have at some point or another. So in this scenario, I have a classic case of imposter syndrome. I know how extremely challenging weapon school is, and I think to myself, if there is a place that will identify that I truly am an imposter, that my success is due to luck or good timing, it is weapon school. Have you ever felt like an imposter? Maybe you attribute your acceptance into a prestigious university as lucky. Or maybe you feel you got the job you landed because of good timing or knowing someone. If that's the case, you likely suffer from imposter syndrome from time to time. Well, this is the foundation of my I can't do this mentality. The battle within is on. But unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, imposter syndrome is a known enemy of mine. And if I am going to maintain a mission-focused mindset, I must defeat it. First step, ensure that my emotions don't take control based on any inaccurate pictures. One way I start handling this is using logic. It's usually really helpful. So I run through the scenario in my head. Okay, the training starts in July. I'm gonna have an 18-month-old and a 3-month-old. Okay, let's just keep going. All right, the training is July to December, that's 6 months. Ugh. I don't really think my husband is going to be okay with me going away and leaving him behind with 2 really small children. Plus, what kind of mom would do that? I can't do it. Logic is not defeating this enemy. And I have become completely circumstance focused. And this challenge appears impossible to me. Now, later that night, I tell my husband about the opportunity that's been presented to me. And his response, it's pretty shocking. He looks at me and he says, "You have to go. You have to go. You can't turn down an opportunity like this." And I said, "What? How are we going to make that work?" He just said, "We'll figure it out." He was mission focused. He saw the big picture. And although that is a super important point, and clearly I want you to take that away, there's something else I want you to see for this particular section. He believed in me. And if it hadn't been for his instantaneous, without a doubt, you can do this mentality, I would have never, ever considered this opportunity something realistic. Another weapon for you to defeat those enemies within is the support of others. Our society preaches that we got to be strong and independent and do it on our own. I totally agree in some circumstances. But we need to be wise. We are social beings. We are meant to work together and help each other. And think about it. I love helping people. I love that more than anything else. So give the people who love you an opportunity to help you when you need it. Recognize that you need help. You know what? We are the only ones that can battle the enemies within, but maybe we have a knife and they can hand us a sword. So when you are struggling to believe in yourself, and it happens to all of us, it's normal. Lean on those that you trust who believe in you. They will help shift your focus away from the challenging circumstance and help you see the big picture. The inner self-doubt battle, it's real. And we must be prepared to battle those enemies within with a mission-focused mindset. I did apply for weapons school and I got accepted. PEZ, it keeps us focused on the mission so we don't get fixated on the circumstances. P, prepare for the most likely what ifs. Second, the enemies within, which leads me to my third point. Get in the zone. Focus forward. I want to remind you again, we've done the goal setting. This is something we want. We're moving forward. You need, if it's a challenging objective, you need everything you have. You don't need to be distracted by going back to those kind of what ifs, or should I, or the decision-making process. During the months leading up to weapons school, my pregnant belly grew bigger and bigger. My 1-year-old daughter, she started to walk. I am preparing to leave my family for 6 months. And I am still remotely flying combat missions in both Iraq and Afghanistan on the graveyard shift as the chief instructor pilot in the squadron. I had a lot going on. I could have easily waved the white flag and said, wait, I have no idea what I was thinking. This is not such a good idea. Maybe it was the hormones, I'm not sure. But I didn't. Why? Because I had already decided this was something I could and would do. And once I set my mind on something, bring it. There is no stopping me. In fact, after I had already been officially accepted into weapons school, deep into the preparation, as well as 9 months pregnant, I get called into the deputy commander's office. I assume it's another conversation about weapons school, and I'm right, it is. But soon I start to notice he's shifting in his chair, breaking eye contact. I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? What is making him so uncomfortable? Oh, yeah. This big belly seems to make a lot of people around me very uncomfortable. And I just continue to listen. And suddenly, it's crystal clear why he is so uncomfortable. He says to me, we didn't really understand the caliber and intensity of weapons school when we asked you to apply. And given your current circumstances, We don't think it's in the best interest of the squadron to send you. I am in complete shock as my mind begins to race and I'm instantly fired up and I'm thinking to myself, is he kidding me? They knew I was pregnant when they asked me to apply. Do they not understand how this whole process works? Seriously, this is unacceptable. I take a deep breath. And without much concern for what he might think, I say, with all due respect, sir, I applied, I got accepted, I'm going. Do you think that I walked out of that office that day as confident on the inside as I sounded on the outside? No way. Not at all. This shocking new perspective about my ability to succeed absolutely rattled my confidence and made me question the decision to continue up this extremely challenging path. Maybe you've been in a similar situation. Maybe you had a job in the past, your boss gave you the lead on a huge project, and then just before it kicked off, they give the lead to someone else. Or maybe it brings back memories of a childhood when you're playing sports. The coach finally put you in the starting lineup. You are pumped. You're so excited. You're like, I did it. Yes. And then just before start time, you overhear the coaches talking about pulling you. You were so excited. But now you begin to doubt yourself all over again. And I started to have those doubts too. But thankfully, I was focused and in the zone. I had already decided that this was something I could and would do. And I wasn't going to let someone else's insecurities about my ability to succeed throw me back into the doubting phase when I had already hashed that out. I show up at weapons school knowing that my own leadership doubts my ability to succeed. But I'm going to prove them wrong. And you know, they weren't the only ones by a long shot. You should have seen the looks on some of the weapons school instructors' faces when they found out that I had just had a baby 3 months prior. Some of them were questioning my ability to succeed, while others, well, they were questioning me as a mother. But that's a whole nother speech topic. The bottom line is the odds were stacked against me. Thankfully, I know how to work really, really hard. But this is weapons school, and that is just not enough. You can't just grind it out forever. It's just not going to work. You need to work smarter too. Find out what's stopping your progress. In my case, I knew how challenging weapons school is. I knew I needed to keep up. If I had a question in class, I couldn't go wait till I got back and figure out in my room by myself. I needed to keep up. So one of the things I did was I made a pact with myself. It was black and white, super simple. If I had a question in class, unlike I'd done in the past, I was going to raise my hand and ask it. Ugh. It was so hard the first time I had a question. I just thought to myself, well, here I go. About to show everybody how much I don't know and that I don't belong here. But I did it anyways. And I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. You get the idea. And you know what's so funny? That yeah, I got labeled that chick in the back who keeps asking questions and makes class go long. No, I didn't sit in the back. I didn't do that. And that's not what was funny. What was funny to me was that almost every day after class, somebody would come up to me and almost under their breath, they would say, "I'm so glad you asked that question. I was wondering the same thing." Yeah, of course you were. You just weren't brave enough to ask it. I wasn't the only one. But I didn't let my emotions and my self-doubt stop me. That pact, I decided back here. So when it came to go time, no thinking, just do, focus forward. That's what we do. Weapons school was hands down one of the most challenging things that I have ever done in my entire life. You know, one of those things that you would never take back, but you might not do again. Yeah. And did I ever want to quit? Yeah. So many times. So many. The thought came in and I let it go because I refused to let quitting be an option. I decided that this was something I was going to do. And if I wasn't going to make it, it was because I failed, not because I quit. Our society talks about failure. I mean, we're trying to turn that around now. Failure is really and ultimately a good thing, but there's still a stigma on it about failure. And when we're looking at it from the inside, oftentimes we think it's better to just quit than to fail. But I want you to look at it from the outside. Would you rather hire and or work with a quitter or a failure? I don't know about you, but people can be taught things. Sometimes quitters, they just keep quitting. But I refuse to let quitting be an option. I kept my mission-focused mindset. And I did graduate from weapons school. Every big dream or lofty goal, I mean, even daily life itself has its challenges. We all know that, right? We must be prepared to persevere with a mission-focused mindset. We can't get fixated on circumstances and stuck there. You need to keep the cross check going. If you have a problem, you look outside, get your cross check, go back to it. You do need to address it, but you can't get stuck there. And when you feel stuck or you know you have a challenging situation coming up, just bring your mindset back to PEZ. Prepare for both the expected and the unexpected. Next, battle those enemies within. You have to identify them in order to battle them. And that's the first step. And last, get in the zone. Focus forward. Decision making's done. If you can remember to keep this mindset in challenging situations and preparing for them, ultimately, you will be more successful. Thank you.